Airtech Mod Soldier here, and I'm back to talk about Game of Thrones House of the Dragon Season 1, Episode 1, and my thoughts on this episode. I'm going to start this video out by talking about where I stand with Game of Thrones. Listen, Season 8 was a fucking disaster. It was a complete fucking disaster. They ruined characters, they didn't finish off plot lines. It was a joke of a season, and it's pretty much one of the biggest, I think it is the biggest TV disaster we've ever seen, which was the complete fault of Dumber and Dumber, those two morons who were in charge of the show, who pretty much tried to rush Game of Thrones because they wanted to go to Star Wars, and nothing became of that. So they ruined their show for nothing. And then all the other stuff that came out about them too, the fact they switched, who would write the first part of the season to who would write the end. Again, these two got fucking lucky with Game of Thrones. They were not talented enough for this show. They should have never been a part of it. And so Game of Thrones has been pretty much damaged by Season 8. It has been. And House of the Dragon is pretty much an apology to the fans, at least. Because I've seen a lot of the interviews, I've seen a lot of the behind the scenes. These people involved in this project, the writer, the director, they seem to want to get the Game of Thrones fans back, which I can respect. Have they said stupid things? Yes, one has said he wants to do, doesn't want to just do stories with white people, and the other one has said he wants to do fucking stories against the patriarchy. I mean, fine. Just make it entertaining. Because Game of Thrones cannot have another fuck up. Because if this show goes fucking woke too much, if this show fucks up too much, Game of Thrones is a dead franchise. It's already dying because of Season 8. So that's where I stand right now. I have hope because this episode was amazing. I can't point out any flaws. There is woke in this episode, but it doesn't take over the episode. It doesn't ruin anything for me. And yeah, I think it's a good episode. I couldn't give a shit about the diversity stuff. King's Landing is more diverse now for some weird reason. And I know some people had a problem with the, what's his name? Cooley Valerian being black. I don't care. Okay? He's a good actor. I'm going to let him fucking prove it. Okay? I know that some people are going to say, well, it's kind of weird that King's Landing is going to be white as fuck in 100 years. And apparently it's diverse now. I just don't care. The actor's good enough. He's entertaining. I'm interested in the story. That's where I stand with it. This is different to Lord of the Rings, where Tolkien pretty much has said and written the characters are white. So I kind of think some people got to get over that. It's not racist to point that out. That Lord of the Rings is pretty much a white people franchise. But I think Game of Thrones can do the diversity stuff, because who cares? Because George R. R. Martin said it's diverse. And again, who cares? I just want to be entertained. Lord of the Rings is a different animal, because that shit, bloody hell, I was willing to give that shit a chance until, that fat bitch dwarf opened her mouth. That bitch needs to shut the fuck up. Anyway, that's a different video. But on to my review of the first episode. It was a great episode. I can't point out any flaws. It was entertaining. It was interesting to find out stuff. And again, I want to find out more about the Targaryens, because we never really saw the Targaryens at their height. We only ever saw Dany. I know a lot of people liked her, but I just kind of thought, I want to see the Targaryens at their height. And this show is going to show us that, which I love. But yeah, it was a great episode. There wasn't that many flaws, if any. I like the characters. Matt Smith is a fucking fantastic actor. I mean, I wish he'd get more work and not listen to his manager, whatever the fuck he is the boss of him. Because whoever tells him to take roles, tells him to take really shitty roles. I mean, it's pretty embarrassing. But I'm glad he's in this because he shows why he's a great actor, and he was a great Doctor. I might not have liked him as a Doctor because I didn't like the way he played the Doctor, but he was still a great Doctor. So, Matt Smith, fantastic in this episode. I love him as Daemon Targaryen. It was just so interesting to watch and find out more about his character. Other members of the cast, great. There's not really any problems here. I mean, it's a 7 out of 10 for me. It's the first episode, and I think it's a good way to start off, especially with, you know, the history of Game of Thrones. So 7 out of 10. Good episode, great episode. And if you haven't watched it, and I kind of think if you haven't watched Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, you can go in this without knowing Game of Thrones. You really don't need to know anything about Game of Thrones to enjoy this series. And yeah, I'd say give it a try. So let's go into spoilers now. If you don't want to hear spoilers, leave in 3, 2, 1. So I want to start this off with one thing. I don't want them to concentrate on the Starks or the Lannisters. I don't want to see the North. I don't want to see the Wall. I don't want to see the Night's Watch. I don't want to see zombies, whites, whatever. I don't want to see any of that. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, that's what made the show, you know, this big thing. I know that, but I just don't care. Okay? I don't care. This story needs to just be about the Targaryens, the Hightowers, and the Valerian houses. Okay? I don't want to see anything from Game of Thrones. Just concentrate on the House of the Dragon and these people and these houses. Please don't be stupid and have Rhaenyra fucking going to the north to fucking investigate shit. I don't want that. Okay? That's a separate thing that has been fucked to shit for me. Just concentrate on the dragons. Just concentrate on the, you know, King's Landing. Just concentrate on the succession bullshit stuff. Just concentrate on the stuff I want to watch. That's all I'm asking from this show. Don't try to bring back nostalgia bullshit, because Game of Thrones is not exactly done well with its nostalgia, since it fucked every fucking character in Season 8. That's my little rant about that. Let's get on with the review. Let's get on with the spoiler review. So the episode starts off with them explaining the succession from the last king who died, and how he didn't have a son, so he had to name one of his nephews or his niece as the new king of the Seven Kingdoms, which is Viserys Targaryen and Rhaenyra Targaryen. And these two both want to be king or queen of Westeros, but as the king couldn't decide for himself, he gave it to his council and all the lords, and they all decided that it should be Viserys Targaryen. He's to be king. And we do get a lot of this in the episode about women are not supposed to be in charge, women are not supposed to be taking over, the man is supposed to be, you know, first, whether he's younger than the first child who's a woman. I get it. I get that they're trying to say this is unfair, and I agree, it is unfair. But it's fact. There was never a queen of the Seven Kingdoms, and there still never has been, because Dany didn't make it to that chair. She died. So I'm just saying, we all know there's not going to be a queen of Westeros. Unless they change it and fuck up all canon again. Which is, again, I wouldn't take the risk if I were these writers to piss off the Game of Thrones fans, because you already did that with Season 8. Anyway, so Viserys is now king of Westeros because the king died. We go into the future. He's king, he's having a kid, and we see young Rhaenyra, because there's two Rhaenyras in this show, riding her dragon above King's Landing. She lands the dragon and, meets up with her Kingsguard, which is West Sterling, that's his name. and he pretty much is her bodyguard. And she also meets up with Alicent Hightower, who is the daughter of the Hand of the King, who is Otto Hightower, and they're friends. And if you don't know these two characters from the lore, it's very interesting that they're friends, because of what's going to happen between these two and what's going to cause a lot of friction between them. Again, if you know the lore, you know these two are not going to be friends for a very long time. I know it's a big spoiler if you haven't seen it, but I mean, you should watch the animation lore video. It pretty much spells out what this is all about. But anyway, so they both get into the carriage. Rhaenyra's dragon gets put away into the Dragon Fort. I think that's what it's called. And they head to King's Landing to see the king, who's in a meeting with his council, talking about the tournament they're holding for his son that he thinks he's going to have. And yeah, they're trying to set up for it, make sure the weather's good and make sure everybody has a good time and all that shit. And that's pretty much what the High Council meeting was all about. Otto Hightower brings up Daemon, how he keeps missing the High Council meetings. Is it High Council? I don't know. Well, how he keeps missing the meetings, and Viserys doesn't really mind because he's his brother and he's going to defend him, and it's not really his responsibility, even though he's in charge of the gold cloaks in the city and he has a responsibility. So you can pretty much tell in this first council meeting that Otto Hightower and Daemon are not really on the better terms with each other. And Rhaenyra comes in to, be the cupbearer for all of the people at the council. They talk about the money, and then Cortos Velaryon brings up the fact that there's apparently a threat to the kingdoms from pirates who have united with each other and are planning some sort of raid on Westeros. And as he is the master of ships, he wants the council to take this seriously. He wants the king to take it seriously, and he thinks they need to attack this triumvirate, or this group of pirates who have teamed up together because they are a threat to the kingdom. Viserys doesn't really think it's that much of an issue, but Velaryon thinks it is, and he wants the king to send him and send a few dragons to deal with them, but he's too preoccupied with his wife and the son that he thinks he's going to have. So Rhaenyra heads to the throne room, where she sees that Daemon is sitting on the Iron Throne. Now I'm going to stop here and talk about the throne. It looks ridiculous. I get that they want to show the fact that it's like hundreds of thousands of swords, and the fact that it got burnt, and they want to show it's a massive spectacle. It just looks ridiculous, okay? All those swords coming up from the ground. I mean, if someone falls over, they're fucking dead. I'm sorry, the throne just looks ridiculous now. You don't need that many bloody swords. The chair was fine. It looks big, it looks brutal, it looks powerful. Adding all these extra swords in the background, it just looks ridiculous. I'm sorry, it just does. Anyway, so Rhaenyra talks to Daemon, and Daemon's pretty much just, fucking about on a chair, and he's gotten a present for Rhaenyra, which is a Valyrian necklace, and he gives it to her, and they both pretty much are just there to have a chat. And, well, Rhaenyra's trying to get him to take things more seriously, and, not to antagonize too many people, but he's doesn't really give a shit. He's a man. He pretty much wants to do what he wants to do. So yeah. So Rhaenyra. Next scene is Rhaenyra with Alicent talking about the history of Westeros. They talk about the Dornish and how one of their ancestors lit up all their ships to make sure her people didn't run away, and that the fact that she had to force them to stay in Dawn to start a new life. And so again, this relationship between them is very interesting because of what's going to happen in the future. That's what I find. And so that scene. Next scene is King Viserys talking to his wife, who's in the bath, and how she's kind of uncomfortable, and the baby's kind of kicking and stuff, and she just wants to have this baby already. So she's acting like a normal woman in pregnancy. She wants to have the baby and just have this all done with. But she also tells Viserys that this is the last time she wants to have kids, because she cannot go through this again because of the fact that they've lost 3 kids, and a couple of them that were born died, and some were stillborn. So she doesn't want to go through this pain anymore. And Viserys is kind of, I think, gutted by this, but he understands. And so I think he accepts that he cannot have any more kids with his wife after this. The next scene is Daemon talking to the Gold Cloaks, which he's in charge of and he has created. And they're pretty much the police force of King's Landing that he's created to stop crime, to deal with the rapists, to deal with the murderers, to deal with the people who are stealing. And man, the Gold Cloaks have not changed that much. I mean, they're in different uniforms, but they really are just still scummy little bastards, aren't they? So Daemon tells them to go out as wolves and deal with all the crimes on the street with deadly force, and that's what they do. They kill a bunch of people, cut some people's arms off, and one rapist gets his dick cut off, which we had to see for some reason. No offense, I just don't want to see a dick cut off. I mean, I'm a man. I don't, that area is very important. So Daemon then kills one of the criminals himself, and this gets back to the council, where Otto Hightower pretty much tells the king he thinks Daemon's been too harsh. He thinks that Daemon's killing innocent people, and he just thinks this was way over the top. It didn't need to happen like this. And it turns out that Daemon is at the meeting this time, so he kind of takes shots at Otto Hightower a lot. He takes a shot at his wife, and Viserys has to tell him, of course he's doing this to piss you off, you need to kind of rise above it, and so Otto does. At this High Council meeting, they have balls for some reason. They have these weird balls in their hand, which they put on the table. I don't know why. I mean, it's a small detail. It's just, it was very weird. Anyway, so Daemon goes to a brothel, has sex with a prostitute, but he struggles to have sex because he's kind of frustrated with something. The prostitute calms him down and tells him he's going to be king one day or powerful one day, and well, that seems to make him happy. We then go to the tournament where Viserys tells the people that his wife's now in labour and everybody celebrates. We then get the tournament, jousting, and knights start, hitting each other. They then start using swords and killing each other. Daemon then gets on a horse where he challenges Otto Hightower's son. He beats the son, and he's pretty much kicking everybody's ass. But there's another knight who's also kicking a lot of ass, and his name is Lord Christian from Dawn, who is also riding that day. And when Lord Christian or Sir Christian or whatever, and Daemon joust together, he knocks Daemon off his horse. Daemon then demands to have hand-to-hand combat with swords. Christian has a mace. They start swinging at each other, and ultimately Christian wins, which that pisses Daemon off pretty much. But at the same time as it's happening, the king gets called away to his wife, who's struggling to give birth to their child. Apparently the child's stuck in the womb. They don't know what to do. So the Grand Maester tells the king of a method they use at the Citadel, which is to cut the baby out of the mother. And he has to choose. Does he choose his wife? Or does he choose the child? Or does he lose both of them? And Daemon believes that this is his son. So regrettably he chooses the son over his wife. And the women grab the queen, and so does he, to keep her still, whilst the Grand Maester cuts into her stomach to pull the baby out. I think this is a very, very hard scene to watch. It's very... it's a hard choice for him. He has to choose between his wife or his child. And he could ultimately lose both if he doesn't choose fast. And so it's a horrible choice he has to make, which is what Game of Thrones is kind of good at showing us. Just difficult choices. So they pull the baby out. The mother is just dying now because of loss of blood. And by the end, when the baby's born, the mother dies. Viserys loses his wife. But also, unfortunately, he loses the son as well. And the next scene is a funeral where his daughter tells the dragon to burn both the bodies, and she's very pissed off at her father because of what he's done, which is killing her mother, basically. And she believes that he chose the son over the mother, which is just out of order, which she doesn't agree with. The next scene is... I want to give a kind of a thumbs up to the combat in this scene with the jousting. Everything looked great. The armor looks great. The combat looked fantastic. I love that. I love when they show competent people fighting, not just idiots, swinging around ridiculously. So, credit to the episode for that. So, next scene. So, next scene is the High Council meeting where Otto Hightower brings up the concession because he lost his son and he's lost his wife, so there is nobody to replace him on the throne. But one of the High Council people, Valerion, he brings up the fact he has a daughter and she should be the next in line. And one of the other council members says that's not right. We have 100 years of males being in charge. We can't have a queen. But Viserys is angry with this because he's just lost his wife and kids, and these people want to talk about something that he doesn't want to talk about, and gets very angry at the council because some of the council members, Otto Hightower, pretty much the first among them, is worried that if Daemon becomes king of Westeros, he may be another Maegor, and he was a brutal cunt, that guy, who killed a lot of innocent people. So that's what they fear. But I kind of think Otto Hightower just doesn't want it to be Daemon because he hates the fuck out of him. I kind of think that's just pretty clear with what happens. The next scene is Alicent talking to her father, who does the very dirty thing, I'm going to say, and tells his daughter to go speak to the king, which is pretty much code for, could you go fuck the king and become queen, basically. Because this is what Otto Hightower wants. He wants his daughter to marry the king, so she becomes the queen and his family becomes part of the royal family. Which is, I've got to give it to him. That's a dirty thing to do with your daughter, but if you want to make it in the world, especially in Westeros, marrying the king's pretty much a good way of doing it. But you can kind of see that his daughter is very uncomfortable with this. But I do kind of think the show is going to show her become more and more confident and more, eager to become queen. Which is what Game of Thrones used to be good at. To do the whole politics stuff, the whole bad characters that turn to good characters turning bad. And I think she's going to be the good character that turns bad. Which I'm actually looking forward to seeing. So she goes see the king. She brings a book with her to talk to the king about history and stuff. And pretty much tries to lay the groundwork to get to his heart, basically. At least that's what I think's what she's trying to do. So next scene is another High Council meeting. I swear there's a different name for that council. I know, I'm going to get a lot of shit for that. But anyway, so the High Council meeting starts again, and Otto Hightower tells the king something that pisses the king off massively. Daemon is in a brothel with all his cloaks, not all his cloaks, all his gold cloaks, and they're all fucking and doing all that shit, and Daemon makes a toast, and in the toast he says to the heir who was heir for a day, and this pisses off King Viserys so much. And when Viserys hears this, he orders his brother to come see him in the throne room, where where he asks Daemon, did he say it? Did he say the heir for the day stuff? And Daemon says yes, he said it, and tells the king that he should have made him his hand, and how Viserys trusts Otto Hightower too much, and that Otto Hightower is a fucking cunt, basically. But Viserys tells him, how can you do this to me? I've been your biggest supporter, I've defended you, I've tried to help you, but that stops now. You are to leave King's Landing and go see your wife. I think at Dragonstone, I think that's where they sent him. But Daemon's pretty pissed off about this. He tries to do a move to the king, but the king's guard pretty much react and get in his way, and then he just leaves in disgrace. Goes, sees his dragon, and there you go. But so at the end of the show, King Viserys makes a decision. He makes a decision to make Rhaenyra his heir, and tells Rhaenyra that she needs to be strong, and she needs to be smart, and she needs to make sure that she's ready for the throne. He apologizes to her about wanting a son, and that he wants to do better by her and do better for the kingdom by making her the heir. And we get a scene of all the lords, swearing fealty to her as the new heir. And then we get a dumb scene, and again, I didn't want this to happen. I really didn't. But Viserys talks about the long night and the darkness that is coming. Now, if I was the Game of Thrones writers, I really wouldn't want to bring up that, because that is again, season 8, the long night, lasted an episode, and the episode was fucking too dark to see anything. The long night lasted an episode. It wasn't that bad. You really need to not bother with that shit. Again, stop bringing up Game of Thrones. It was a disaster. House of the Dragon has a chance. So Viserys tells her about the long night and how she has to be ready for this, and only the Targaryens know what's to come, and they need to be ready for the storm that's coming. I hope that's all we fucking hear about it. I don't want to see the North. I don't want to see it, okay? Just ignore it. There's more interesting stuff in this part of history than going back to the fucking North and trying to get us some nostalgia bullshit. We don't need that. So all the lords swear fealty to her. Daemon has flies in his dragon with the prostitute he befriended in the brothel, and the episode ends. I think it was a really good episode. 7 out of 10. I can't wait for next week's episode. If the show keeps like this, I think this show has a chance. But again, time will tell, especially with Game of Thrones stuff. Yes, the first 2 seasons could be good, but the last season could be utter dog shit, which we pretty much found out from the last show they did. But I've got hope for this show. Is there problems? Yes. Is there woke stuff? Yes, but it's just not that big. I think this show has the ability, has the writing skills, the writers are good, the directing's good, everything's great. Just can they make it to the end without fucking up? That's all I want to know. And that's the end of my review. If you liked the review, give it a like. If you dislike, if you give it a dislike. And if you like my content, do think about subscribing. Entertainment World Soldier. Bye.